budget for 2019-20 fiscal year. So for the public, we have finished just a couple of minutes ago our calculations on the budget, general fund, and voted funds. We just gave them to the clerk and recorder, who has to go back through and make sure that the calculations are correct, and then she will, as soon as she can, run them and post them for public inspection. They're not available right now because she just got them a few minutes ago. But we'll answer questions regarding the levy and the voted levy monies if you had questions about that. The value of a mill this year was $14,190. Any questions?
Is this all going to be restricted to the levy? Is that what this?
No. Well, I mean, it's figures we have before us now. In other words, the budget stick we just gave to the clerk and recorder, and she has to go back through and make sure they're accurate, and then she'll print them so you can read them, because we've been writing on them, and then they'll be available for inspection.
Do you have a report summarizing which changes you made or amendments that you made to the budget?
No, I mean, as far as, we just finished, so no. They're in the clerk and recorder's office.
Well, what, other than the levy, what subjects are you going to discuss?
Anything you want to talk about, if we give you an answer, we'll do it. On the budget.
Well, hold on just a second.
Well, he's looking for something. What about the Forest Management Advisory Committee? Is that a line item? Does it have its own budget, and how much is in it?
It's the forest, the FMAC.
5,000.
5,000? Do you have a list of the,
That's a grant.
and do you have a list of what it was going to be used for? And again, yesterday I brought up,
It's got to be spent this year, too.
You can spend it on professional services or, your meetings and that.
so any of the grant money of any of the departments has to be spent by the end of the year?
No. That particular one has to be spent for some, yeah, but not, a lot of the other grant monies do not have to spend in the fiscal year.
So after the grant runs out, that's it?
I guess you need to be more, are you talking about FMAC? Go ahead. She said after the grant runs out, that's it, that's more our money. That was her question.
Yeah.
So then that's it.
But we can amend it like we did last time, we put money in if we have to.
So in the newspaper, as I said yesterday, it says a public hearing this week, and any questions, and that was the first public meeting, and then next Tuesday is going to be the final where you make your decision. But we don't have anything to see until whenever there's a copy completed.
Sarah is going to try to get out as quickly as she can and leave it for a public inspection, so you got the rest of this week and next week to look at the individual budgets that we just finished.
Is it going to be online by any chance?
I don't think so.
I don't think we'll be here for inspection.
For the record, that's kind of difficult to read something like that, standing in there and looking at it. how can you actually go through it?
Well, she'll help you if you have questions about what you want to look at, something specific and general kind of, like she has for, like the recorder has for what, like 40 years? Not at least maybe 40 years, maybe longer. So I mean, it's not possible, it's trying to make it available to you.
Again, I don't understand why Phillipsburg had it online for weeks, the preliminary
We
budget.
got a little tiny budget, and we got a great big one. That's
Even
probably-
Great Falls has it. And they've got a big, big, big budget too, Great Falls.
Okay,
So it's just on how you would do it. Because this is, I mean, once the preliminary, so in other words, the preliminary budget basically is not completed. You just finished it a half an hour ago. So then the fact that it was in the newspaper twice, that it was completed, that should be a do-over, I think. Because it should have been done by today, according to the newspaper 2 weeks ago.
We did the very best we could. Some of the information wasn't available until today. We worked together. It's, you know, as far as we're concerned, the commission, it's done. Now, when she's going to go through it. If there's any irregularities, she may have to bring it back in and talk to us about it. But she'll put a preliminary budget up there for your inspection regardless.
But I'm saying that it should be corrected. There should be twice in the newspaper that with the new preliminary budget completed. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it looked like it was completed August 29th. The first time it appeared in the newspaper, it says that it was available for public view. And it's not.
I don't know
And
what
it's
the
still
newspaper
not.
said, but we made a promise of trying to get it to you today, and that's what we do. Nick, did you have
She
questions?
won't get it today.
She won't get it today either. That's right.
Well, for all practical purposes, what was yesterday all about?
Well,
What budget?
it was a work session. That's what it was listed, so that's what we did.
It doesn't comply with the laws concerning budgets. Budgets are supposed to be open to the public. You're supposed to put 2 weeks' notice in the paper. And why haven't you done that?
Basically, our county attorney says we are complying with the law, so you'll have to take that up with him.
Pardon me?
The county attorney says we are complying with the law, so you'll have to take that up with him.
Well, I think you should maybe be here then.
Well, he's busy.
Should all the heads of the agencies have been here also? They're supposed to be able to answer questions, and they weren't available to the people. Want county attorney to read that one too? So what about the other laws? What information do you have at this hearing to prepare the preliminary budget? It was all done yesterday, and it was done.
No, we actually finished it up just moments ago. It wasn't all done.
It wasn't noticed to the people that you were finishing it up moments ago, was it?
It was a work session, and we told you to try to get it to you. Didn't we say the 13th, Mike?
Yeah,
I think that's what we said. I don't care what the paper said. We said the 13th.
Did you pay for that? I mean, if the article was
1 o'clock,
wrong,
it said budget work session, now we're at 2 o'clock, it's about budget hearing.
budget hearing, yeah.
Yeah,
So the newspaper had it wrong twice and you paid for it?
I don't know. I haven't got the paper in front of me.
The papers are right in there. Every Thursday they come.
Well, why is it you don't know? You're required to put those notices in the paper. And if the people have any questions, the heads of the agencies should be available to answer those questions. I don't.
What's your question on the budget?
Huh?
What's your question on the budget?
Well,
We don't have the
why don't you
preliminary
provide the
budget.
information available so that we can look at the budget and discuss it? Why don't you go down line item by line item like you did yesterday in private?
you have that piece of paper I gave you there? So we can look at each one,
Which piece of paper are you referring to?
the one I gave you the other day,
I
the levy set, I handed it to you.
I don't think I got that one.
There you go. Yes, you did.
Was it about the television station?
No, it wasn't nothing to do with television, this was the levy set.
The levy
I handed
set.
this to him.
Well, the levies have virtually nothing to do with the
With the
budget
budget.
projection. Okay, that's after the budget is already prepared and agreed to.
No, we gotta look and see on the levy how much money is in each one, what the mills are, how many mills are, and move the mills around to make sure everybody can be.
It's totally irrelevant when it comes to determining what the individual department's budget is. What you should be looking at are the salaries, the supplies. Do you have a list of the capital expenditures for each one of the budgets? Where is that? Where is your capital expenditure summary? How much did you appropriate for each agency?
It's in there.
Huh?
It's in there.
Well, why isn't it available to the public right now?
Because we just got done and it's in there and she's moving
Well,
the stuff
then
around.
bring it in here and let's take a look at it.
Well,
That's the whole subject of the purpose of the meeting today, right? Is to discuss the budget appropriations from each department.
Wasn't that the 13th? I read the 13th, it was supposed to be good.
He's in there looking.
oh, is he looking at the newspaper?
I don't know, he's right there, you go and ask him.
That's a good idea. I call. Because I know the newspaper is in there. And we could read it once and for all.
Anyway, that's what I was shooting for, was the 13th. But I can't remember why or where I read it.
Well, we can't have it in, I mean, she's got to go over it and look and see what we changed and then put it in where we changed.
Well,
It's
it kinda-
not for the public yet, until that's why we gotta get it.
It kind of surprised me, it was on
I think that's all wrong. The public should be involved in it. And they should be able
Is
to
the
ask
public
questions.
supposed to be involved or just you?
I am part of the public,
Oh, no,
okay?
that's why I'm asking.
Well, what the hell, it means all the public. You didn't give
What are you
sufficient
getting all mad
notice.
about? What are
You
you
didn't
getting
give
mad about?
sufficient
See, you're
notice to
starting
the
to get
people
all
of it.
pissy.
Huh?
You're getting all pissy, I just asked. I
How
just
the
asked
hell
a
do I
simple
know?
question.
I don't know whether they're all busy or not.
There's all
It's
kinds of
an
hell.
indication that you didn't
Sure.
provide public notice. You
I
didn't
never
make,
said nothing about busy.
you didn't make the people aware of what the budget was gonna be, the budget meetings were gonna be about.
Okay, so you can't undo it. What it is what it is. It's in there being gone over and.
Okay,
Moments
for the
ago.
record, this is, I want to read this for the record. This is the notice that was in the August 29th newspaper and also in the September 5th. In accordance with the laws of the state of Montana, the Board of County Commissioners of Granite County, Montana has completed the preliminary budget for the current fiscal year, and the same has been placed on file for inspection in the office of the county clerk and recorder. The board has set Tuesday, September 10th from 2 to 4 p.m. and Tuesday, September 17th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at their office in the courthouse for the purpose of conducting a public hearing on the budget and shall be concluded and the budget approved and adopted on Tuesday, September 17th at 4 p.m. Any taxpayer or resident may appear at the meeting and be heard for or against any part of the proposed budget. Well, how could we do that if it's not done? And that's my point. So I think it really should go back in the newspaper for another 2 public hearings. after you have it completed,
It's complete, it's just.
a half an hour ago.
Yeah.
Thank you,
It's
that's
not
for the
available
record.
to the people.
It will be all this week, and then it won't be concluded until the 17th, just what Alana just said. We're not concluding anything, we can still make changes, you can still affect the budget when you go through and look at it, and discuss it with the commission, so it really doesn't impede you at all.
What's the disposition of the PILT funds? Is that going to be the same way as it was in the previous years? How much did you receive on the PILT funds, and is it going to be available for appropriation or the revenue calculation?
Yeah, we received 250, what exactly?
250,000.
Yeah, we received 250,000 in addition to the built savings that we have. And we didn't.
So
we
there's
didn't
no
expend-
appropriations from the PILT funds?
Not yet.
No, I don't think we did anything.
It's a source of revenue, so it should be available for the calculations, so that you aren't overtaxing the people.
Well, we left the levies, when the levy was set, we expended money from the levies side, not from the bill fund.
Well, what's the appropriation for the PILT fund? Nothing? Zero?
Nothing yet.
So there is no appropriation.
Not right
So
now. It's,
that's going to be the situation for the entire year, or are you going to use the PILT fund in order to cover up for every department that exceeded their appropriations?
no, this year we don't have any departments that exceeded appropriations.
Not yet, but it seems like you get it.
And yes, we can legally use it for that. If in fact they have an emergency, if there's a law enforcement emergency or a flood or something, we have every right in the world to use PILT funds for that.
How
We
much-
have, okay, let me finish. Okay, those funds are up to the county commission. We don't intend to use it. They are the county's safety net for, in fact, those exact things. Now, you may think it's a lot of money, but I'm going to tell you that 1.6 or whatever it is can go real quick in an emergency. We could have a catastrophic issue that would take that quick. And so we're trying to be good, have good public policy in here, have money in the bank, or have a safety net for the public, so that we don't have to go in and tax them if we had an emergency or flood or a catastrophic issue. We would have the built funds first to look at.
How much did you appropriate for emergencies?
We did, it all could be appropriated for emergencies. We could
No,
do
I
that.
think there's a limit on the amount that you can appropriate for levies and
No, we're not levying.
emergencies.
It's not, we wouldn't have
For
to levy.
emergencies, and then
We wouldn't have to
if it's
levy,
over
we
and
would take it
above
from the
that,
bill.
you have money over and above that for an emergency, then you go to the public for a levy.
Right, if in fact we expended the whole PILT fund, we could then have to go to the public for a levy. That's something
You
we
should
want to
make an
avoid.
appropriation for the PILT fund. The PILT fund should be used as a source of revenue in order to compute the taxes for the whole county. And you're not doing that. You're just leaving it in there as essentially a slush fund. Every
No, it's not a slush fund.
every fund, every agency that exceeds their appropriations, you just take it out of the PILT fund. And so that's a misappropriation of public funds.
You don't think we should have a savings?
No,
You don't think so?
that's what the law says, you're not supposed to have it. It doesn't say, they don't call it a savings, but they call it an appropriation. You make an appropriation for a given agency, and that's the amount that they're limited to spending. So if you're going to have an emergency fund, that emergency fund is set up, you appropriate a certain dollar amount, and it's given in the laws on how much that should be. And if you exceed that appropriation in the emergency, then you have to go for a tax levy from the people.
See, I think you're wrong. Commissioner Adler just said the auditor looks at the way we handle our PILT funds and how we use that fund, and he gave us a clean audit. You saw it. and we got, a year before, we got another clean audit. So you're wrong, we don't have to do the, account for the money the way you say we do. Now, it's all there, there's no, clearly in that audit, we're not doing anything inappropriate.
Well,
So you need to argue with him. Because he just filed it with the state of Montana Department of Administration. And we didn't get any letters back saying, geez, you're misusing bill funds, you're not, nobody said anything like that, just you, okay? But there are folks that do this all the time and say that we're doing it properly.
Pay that money out to the auditor.
Yeah, that's enough, you can't argue with them.
So that,
It's a guy delivering stuff.
The public is entitled to participate in the budget preparation, and you didn't give it the
You're
opportunity.
just changing the subject, are you done with Bill?
Well, so you're saying that what you're doing on the PIL funds is perfectly acceptable?
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm
And
saying.
you have
And
no-
that's what an
You
outside
have
auditor
no
says.
appropriations for the PIL
Right,
fund.
and that's what the outside auditor says, and that's what the state of Montana says, that reviews that audit. So,
Okay,
we're gonna go with that.
okay.
There are no appropriations for the PIL money.
No, not right now.
All right now.
Okay,
we
so,
don't have to.
And nobody overspent their budget either. I don't want you to leave here thinking that we had a bunch of over expenditures by our county department heads or advisory boards or general fund agencies at all, and nobody did that, okay? Now, there's an act that can happen before they can overexpend a line item, okay? As long as the total budget that we authorized that year isn't overexpended, you can move that money around to account for that line item.
in that specific fund, you can.
Yes, within that
No.
fund, yes.
If
That's
it's
exactly
beyond, anything beyond that, the
Right.
total amount for that fund
Right,
has to go through the budget amendment process.
yes,
And there has to be a resolution,
Yep.
and there has to be a designation as to which fund that money came out.
right, you're exactly right.
Okay, did that happen on all of this?
We didn't amend anything because we didn't have to.
So you didn't have any appropriations last year for the budget. How much money came out of that for the town of Drummond and the town of Phillipsburg?
Okay, so what I'm telling you, the county offices and funds, we did not take any money out of PILT to zero out, okay? We didn't have to because they were able to find the money within their budget. So the question is, there was money taken out of PILT specifically for the town of Phillipsburg and for the town of Drummond to do, public safety, water, and fire suppression on one side. And that's already been, we did it by resolution, it's out of there, and it's been given to the towns to do the work.
But there was no appropriation for that in the budget, so that you exceeded. They should have applied for their own PIL funds, and it should have been, when it was received by the treasurer, it should have been dispersed by the treasurer to the county. And that-
It's not shoulda, they coulda.
We're talking
But
about
the-
this year or
yeah,
last year?
yeah, right.
That's what they should have, that's what they should have done.
Yeah, they could have, but they didn't. So we properly did it the way we did it. And the auditor looked at it and said it's fine. The outside
There's no
auditor.
appropriation, there's no
Dick,
appropriation.
you're talking, argue with them, write the Department of Administration and, tell them Phillipsburg or Granite County did something wrong, but there's an audit that says we did not. Somebody that has a degree that does this all the time. And by the way, the year before, that's a clean audit too. I mean, you're talking about,
Clean audit?
it's a clean audit, yeah, it absolutely is, and there's no exceptions.
Well, that's for the previous year.
This year.
What are you
Yeah.
talking about on this year? This year's audit hasn't been
No.
completed and
No.
won't be completed until probably May
Right,
of
right,
next year.
right.
So, in the meantime, you're not supposed to exceed your appropriation, and you made no appropriation.
We didn't exceed appropriations.
Well, you just said you didn't appropriate anything for the towns of Phillipsburg and Drummond.
No, last year we did.
Was it in the budget?
We're supposed to be talking about last year.
Yeah, we did it by resolution, which is a problem.
It was done right.
Yeah,
That's already been done.
Okay, I have 2 points of clarification. So in other words, the notices that were in the newspaper, they're incorrect because it should have included that they'd be ready on the 13th of September? Is that what you're saying?
That's what we talked about, Mike, wasn't it the 13th that we went?
Well, it had to start during this meeting.
It had to start during this meeting? Okay, all right. And then, but then we have between now and the 17th for that inspection. And then that's when it's finalized. But the public can comment any time up to that point on those budgets. So,
But Mike, since I asked you, isn't the preliminary budget supposed to be completed by the first public hearing?
You'll have to ask the clerk and recorder, it's completed as far as the commission's concerned.
Okay, okay. And then one other question. So any of the warrants that were paid in December would be on last year's or this year's?
December, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Last year.
Because they're approved in, they were approved in January, right? So would it be last year's or?
The fiscal year starts July
July.
1st, not December.
Okay, so the one for last year would have been for the 2019 would have ended in July or June of this year.
Yes.
Okay, so any of the warrants that were paid in December would have been on, it would have been somewhere, right? For the 2019 budget?
In December, they all would have been in the 2019 budget. The budget they're working on now is.
Is for
the
2020,
budget,
right.
Starting July 1.
Okay, so that any amount that wasn't in the 2019 budget, there would have had to been a resolution taking it from some fund, is that? If the money wasn't appropriated in the 2019 budget, it was something that came up, then would there have to have been an amendment to the budget showing that, a resolution amending the budget?
There could be, yes.
There could be?
Why, what come up?
I'm just asking a question because I remember I was at the hearing that you had.
It can be one or two ways, okay? Either a motion or a resolution. He just talked about that. Okay. And I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the $25,000 we sent for the prosecution of the guy tried to kill our sheriff in Broadmoor County. And I asked him, we didn't do a resolution. We did it by a motion and heard it 3 times. It was on the agenda 3 times. So there's 2 ways we could do it. Yes, we could have done a resolution. Yes, we could have done it the way we did it with hearing it 3 times and putting it on the agenda. So, according to the county attorney.
Okay, because I have it on tape when Davies, I think was his name, was here, the state auditor. I'm not sure of what his name was.
Yes, he's not the state auditor. He's an outside auditor.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I thought he clarified it, yet yes, there would have to be a resolution amending the budget.
I don't think that's what he said because he knew how we did it.
Okay,
Yeah, he knew how we did it.
Well, under what authority do you have to contribute money to another county?
Well, we have every authority, in fact.
Really,
if-
let's not bring that up. I don't want
It's-
to talk about that.
It's just good public policy to not have a trial here for $200,000 and have them combine the prosecution. And the request came from that county through the sheriff to the county attorney. They consulted, and that was the best way to do it. I think that's great public policy. I'll go in the paper with you anytime. You just say, look, we've got to prosecute everything in Granite County at $200,000-300,000, or we can combine it and prosecute it in Broadwater County for 25. Gee, that's a real tough decision for me. I think it's a great thing to do. And that's what, you know, that's good public policy.
It might be good public policy, but is it legal public
Yeah,
policy?
according to the county attorney it is. I don't have a law degree, neither do you, so I can't pass judgment on that. I have to
Dick, I don't want to go
defer to the
there.
guy who does.
It gets down to a matter of appropriations, and you didn't
Well, you
make
go up
any
and talk to
appropriations.
Blaine about
Yeah, you
that.
talk to Blaine about that.
I don't want to go there, Dick. Okay, let's leave it at that.
Well, let's talk about the Flint Creek Dam. Did you make any appropriations for that, or is that going to be on the basis of what money comes in is available for FERC?
So far-
If it exceeds the amount of money in that fund, what's going to happen with that?
Okay, that's a good question. We've done a ton of, maintenance, okay, and we've spent some money. We've got some grant money that we were able to incorporate that the construction on it right now. The grant money is about $125,000, and the rest of that money came from the Flint Creek Dam maintenance fund, okay? And there's still money left over in that. We're gonna tell you exactly how much it is when she gets her calculations done. Not much, and that's why we're concerned about it. It doesn't, we met with the contractor and the engineer last week, and he said, you know, it looks like you guys have done about everything that's in his view coming up, so maybe there won't be so many expenditures so that the fund could actually build up, okay? And we wouldn't be in such a bad position. But we still want to meet with the hydro people and talk about that.
Renegotiate.
Yeah, maybe renegotiate the contract, yeah, that we have.
Has there been any attention given to that one comment or the one line item in the contract that says that the operator, I guess is what we call it, is the one that will pay for the expenditures that are generated by FERC?
Yes.
Yeah.
Blaine looked into that and was talking to Mr. Williams or something.
Who's Mr. Williams?
Attorney, I was telling you, attorney for Hydro.
Attorney for who?
Who?
Hydrodynamics.
Hydrodynamics.
That's the operator.
Well,
I mean, we haven't heard back, so he just did this when we were up, had that big meeting, and then he sent it off, and I don't think we've heard nothing back from Williams yet.
That's to revise the agreement. That's to revise the agreement that you have. It's not in the original or the second one.
but there are not, there are no charges, appropriations going to be made from the PILT money to the Flint Creek Dam.
No,
Not at this time, no, we haven't.
I'm not.
I don't want to either.
I'm not gonna do that.
I don't want to do that.
I think we've all agreed with you on this.
Well, that's the way it is, but that just doesn't seem to be the way it's getting interpreted and enforced.
They agree with you.
So there's a new agreement.
I think all three of us don't want to spend a dime of
Yeah.
public money. We
don't
think
think we
the dam should be self-sufficient as far as the maintenance and using the hydro money to do that. That's why we're wanting to meet with them. We're concerned about that, but we're not there yet.
Did Blaine write up a new agreement?
No, we haven't even had
haven't sat
a
down with
meeting
them.
with them yet. They haven't come to meet with us yet.
They got some new lawyer, and they're waiting to get him involved, and you know how lawyers are, and it's boom, boom, so we're waiting on them right now.
Just for a point, if you were making 90% of the deal and somebody else is getting 10%, would you want to redo the agreement on that? I don't think so. Maybe that's why they're not too in a hurry to sit down with you.
Yeah, the
But-
thing was gonna be shut down.
But we control the water, so I think we've got some leverage here, okay?
Yeah,
Well,
because
let's
all
just
you
wait
have
till
to
we have
do,
the initial meeting, and then we can give you more information, 'cause
Right now, we're guessing.
right now,
I'm
we're
saying.
guessing.
well, it's like,
But we're concerned.
It's like Kelsey from FERC said, you can surrender the license, and then you won't have a problem.
Well, we would still have a problem. We still have a dam, and we still have irrigators below that. We still have a commitment to the operator. We still have a contract. He could sue us in the.
But you see, the county always had that obligation to the irrigators, and always had the dam.
I agree.
FERC got involved only because you were generating electricity.
Exactly.
And so if you surrender the license, I don't see you'd have that problem anymore.
Way more to it. We have an obligation under contract to provide that water to the, so let us meet with them, okay? That's what we're saying. We're
We're trying to answer
concerned.
stuff
We
that
don't,
we shouldn't.
yeah, we're just guessing at this
So
point.
we held that.
Till we meet. Yeah, exactly.
But you know he's not going to sit down and meet with you. He'll just drag this out. There's nothing that makes him want to sit
We
down.
don't know that. In fact,
I would know.
the
I would
last
do
we heard,
that.
He's gonna sit down with us.
Would you want to sit down if you're making 90%?
It's a hypothetical. I'm not gonna answer that.
Well, it's a good business practice. If you got somebody who you got a contract with saying that you can take 90% and the other person 10% and do all the maintenance and stuff, why should you sit down?
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, I guess it's, what is it, 4 o'clock? You got this from 2 to 4, this public hearing. Or is that wrong too?
What's that?
2 to 4 is this
Yes.
public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you anticipate anything in terms of grants next year for any of the departments, or are they applying for any grants that?
Yeah.
Yes, maybe. No, take that back.
That'll be the next year, right? Well, certainly we have a number of agencies that have grants, the Department of Health,
Senior citizens,
county agent, senior citizens, that's a good one.
Area 5. Yeah, county health.
Let's see, where
Weed.
What are the-
Project,
else? Flint Creek
What are the
Project.
matching funds on that?
FMAC,
Yeah,
Pretty
FMAX
much.
junk vehicle is technically.
grant, yeah.
Grade. Yeah, we might have to put in the grants. Is that what you're saying?
Do you have a list of the capital budgets?
We will, in each one of the budgets, we'll have a capital
Well,
line item.
was yesterday a preliminary hearing, or is today the preliminary hearing, or what is the?
Yesterday was a work session, and this morning was a work session.
And they don't have the preliminary budget ready yet.
We do, we're done, but it's in the clerk of recorder's office.
So and technically it's just not put together. You know, scratch paper doesn't make a,
However you want to call it.
yeah.
We're
So
just
how are we
trying
going to know
do
that it's going to be ready by Friday? If
She's
it's going to be
do
ready?
the best she can to get her done.
And how's the public going to know? It's supposed to be already there.
You can call.
Okay.
Well, as far as I can tell, there's no way that the public was allowed to participate in the budget meetings or preliminary budgets or whatever you want to call it. It does say in the budget preparation laws that the public is entitled to be there. There is supposed to be the department heads there to answer questions, and the public is also entitled to answer questions. And so far, that hasn't been available to the people. And for you to threaten me with arrest if I ask questions at the meeting yesterday, I think it's just totally, it just shouldn't be. That shouldn't be the way you conduct open meetings. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a violation of the official misconduct.
You know my address, sue me if you want.
I'm not going to speak.
Get right with it if you want.
I have one more. I have another question. Did you make any arrangements in the budget for another IT service or upgrading the website? You said that you were going to discuss looking into some. Have you made arrangements for somebody else, or are you going to continue to pay the same ones?
Right now, we have a contract with one, right? And did have one discussion that I know of on,
Solid waste.
yeah, and then didn't we do have a discussion on upgrading that, we asked Mike to ask them about upgrading the website, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
they recently merged with another firm, so we'll speak with them.
With the new firm, okay. Did you hear that?
No,
They recently merged with another firm, so we're gonna speak with another firm about upgrading our website so we can have more stuff on it.
okay.
We haven't forgotten that, I mean, that's important.
The,
Well,
for all practical purposes, yesterday's meeting, you're calling work session. All meetings of the county commissioners are open to the public.
We didn't throw you out of here.
Huh?
We didn't throw you out of here, you're welcome to stay, absolutely.
Well, it's not a matter of welcoming to stay, it's a matter of participating in the meeting, and you didn't provide the information or the ability of the public to participate. So it's, and there wasn't a public notice on that. That notice should have been in the paper, should have been published in the newspaper, and there was no publication of that. So the meeting should, for all practical purposes, should be null and void. What you did yesterday is totally inconsistent with the budget preparation laws.
And that's your opinion, that's fine,
That's what is written in the law.
that's your opinion.
Well, I think maybe you should
Okay.
get the opinion of the county attorney.
We did,
You did,
that
so
was
that you
fine,
can.
we put it on the agenda as a work session, he was fully aware of that, he was here some of the time.
You can go up and see him. He's
Yeah,
up
I've
there.
seen him.
okay, let's,
Go see him.
The,
made your
You can't
point,
say
Dick.
what the law says.
He disagreed with you on that a work session was appropriate, and, you know, it was all, here's just my levy sheet, okay, that's what we had to do, okay? And I guess if you wanted to look over my shoulder, fine, but,
I don't think you're supposed to do the levy sheet. I think you're supposed to do the spending.
we did that too,
Spending and
we
revenue.
did that too, but those are gone, it was an example, Dick. You just wanna argue, really, you really don't wanna
Well,
do anything for the benefit of people of Granite County. You really don't want to help them, you just want to argue. We're just trying to do the very best we can here, okay? There's 3,260 people in this county, and we're doing the very best we can.
Well, I don't think it's the very best at all.
Well, that's why you
And then
can
run
run
for county
commission.
commission.
See if you can get voted
You
in.
got, get in here, get right with it, bud.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah, my seat's coming
Well,
up.
if you are members of the commission, the public has the expectation
Now
that
you're
you're going to
changing.
comply with the laws.
Dick, that's it, let's
It
go,
just goes off to something else.
let's go, let's go. That we're done, this is just the budget preliminary, supposedly the completed preliminary budget hearing, but it's not ready. And so we'll just come back on Tuesday when it's done, and we'll ask specific questions.
Give you all weekend to think about it.
Well, we wouldn't have access to it all weekend. I don't think we're gonna sit in there and look at it from in there.
Got what?
Sit in there and look at it from in there?
Yeah. I mean,
Like that
it'll
for
be
years.
there, it'll be available, isn't that what you meant? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so can we come in on the weekend? So this way we can look at it and continue to look at it?
Pictures of it, take it home.
Well, today's Tuesday.
Take
you know,
pictures of it?
It'll be there before the weekend.
Film it, you got a camera.
Oh, I
Don't
got
have
something
anything
else I
else?
can do with it. I don't need a camera to do that.
You know.
I don't think it, I don't think it's funny. I'm sorry, for the record, I don't think it's funny.
Well, I don't care whether you do.
You
or
know,
not.
I know you don't. That's the whole point. You don't. You really
Okay, so
don't.
let's go back on the budget. Is there any other questions?
We can't have any. Yesterday, we had questions too, and from 8:30, he was here from 8:30 until what, 11:45? And then 15 minutes to comment on the budget that we couldn't even hear you
talked the whole
talking
15
about it?
minutes. He didn't let Dick talk. He said he never got a chance. That's because of you. Maybe you should talk to him about that.
I think there's a difference.
No, I didn't talk for the whole, from 8:30, the public comment period, he didn't have any comments, I did. Okay?
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
allow 15 minutes after you've sat here from 8:30, over 3 hours? And then you allow the public to, what are we supposed to do, take notes of it? And then be ready?
It was a work session.
It was a work session, they should have all been done a while ago, in my humble
Let's-
opinion.
You know what, whatever. Okay,
I know.
We did it when we got the information. We're waiting on the data to do the budget. You know, no matter how we did it, you'd
But
say
even
that-
the information,
There is no question about, we can't be right with you, there's no question.
the
Did you know what's going
information,
on the budget? I thought you- yeah.
Well, the clerk and recorder puts out a notice on the 1st of June. The budgets are due by the 10th of June. What is the reason it takes you 3 months in order to even consider the budget?
Well,
We didn't have the
Yeah, we
information.
didn't have the information, we didn't
We
know
had
what
to
our
get
bills
it
were.
You had the information by June 10th to prepare the budget, okay? Yes, you did.
Okay, whatever.
The valuations are a minor part of it. That's the administrative part of it.
We don't get,
You are supposed to discuss the budgets and have your people available, the head of the agency, to discuss the budgets with the people. And rather than doing that, you just let it go, and you even let it go beyond the completion date. The date.
that's your opinion.
It's the opinion of the law. The law says that
When
the
you get a
budget,
law degree,
the
you
budget
can tell
should
me
be
what the law is.
completed by, in
You
this
should be the
case,
county
it would be
attorney.
You need to go
September
see the
7th.
county attorney.
no, I
And
don't
you need
argue
to
with them,
read
please.
that,
It's a waste of time.
Clean audit,
Ah.
because it says contrary to what you believe, that we're doing the right thing.
Okay, well, one other question I have here concerns the modification or grant for the hogback road maintenance. It's my understanding that's going to be something like $515,000. In what budget does that go? Does that go into the transportation budget or?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Hogback?
What about the hogback?
Hogback, yeah, hogback.
Hogback, what about?
Which budget is that $550,000 going into?
Do you know what he's talking
Or
about?
coming out
I
of
think
it.
it's a fire, it's about fire.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about the forest money?
That we
It's
didn't get to work?
called the Myers Little Hogback Road Maintenance and Settlement Reduction
Right,
Grant.
Right. okay. What do you want to
Where
know
is the
about
money
that?
for that going? In what department is that going?
County Road Department?
In the
Okay.
road department?
Yeah, and we get, so we hired private contractors to actually do the work. And they were paid through our administrative here. And
We got
supervisor
10%.
called, supervised it, made sure they were all qualified to do the work and did the safety inspections and all that, okay? We got 10% for that, and that went to the road department. So what's the number you got there?
500 and something?
515.
I think it was more like 200, but.
That's
515,000.
combined with last year.
Seven.
Yeah, that's combined with last year, so half.
That's where that hogback comes
Okay.
in.
Okay.
We're just trying to figure out what you're getting at.
Hogback was last year's.
Right. So there's,
It says
so
it
that's
goes to
2 years
2020.
worth.
I know, but they did hogback last year's, I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah,
Well, how is the money distributed?
They just-
You
right,
just-
straight to the road department. 10%.
All the 515?
No, I told you, we hired
No.
private contractors, locals to go do the work. We paid those
And
contractors.
culverts.
From
Right,
what?
and we paid for
From what
culverts
fund?
and materials, right straight from the Forest Service. went
From
right
the
to
Forest
us.
Service fund there.
Yeah, it doesn't go through any of our funds.
So you send the bill to the Forest Service? And
Yep, and they pay us.
And they
Yep.
pay it?
We get all the invoices from the contractors we hired, come up, they drop them here, they're sent to the Forest Service, they send the money right back, we take 10% off the top, and we pay our private contractors.
Plus, we got money for running our own equipment.
Yeah.
So that goes into the road
County
fund
road
Yes.
fund.
as revenue, the $50,000 of the revenue.
It's like 50,000 in 2 years, so yeah, 25 1 year, and 25, about
24 this year.
24 this year, anyway, yes.
And again, is that used to offset their expenses or,
Well, and actually, you know, Paul is gonna look, we're doing a couple things. We're trying to upgrade our equipment, we're trying to put some material on the roads where we really need it, you know, replace culverts, stuff like that. So we're actually able to do a lot more than we would be able to do just with the 11 months and the road and the gas tax. Those are the two revenues for the road department, and there's a third one now, that's the 10%.
well, does that grant, that 50,000 go to pay for the expenses of the road department?
Yes.
Or is it for the capital expenditures?
Both. There isn't any capital expenditures unless we use equipment, okay? But it pays for Paul's administration of that program.
Okay, what are the capital expenditures for the road department?
Now, we're not talking
Did he
about the
budget
Forest
anything
Service.
for it? Or
Oh, yeah, he did, yeah, absolutely.
How much did he budget for it?
We'd have to go pull it and look.
So they don't have answers for that.
I-
They gotta wait for
That's
their
what we worked
budget.
on today, was finalizing the road
Okay, that's it.
capital expenditures.
We won't have get any till we get that.
When he applied here, when he came here at 8 o'clock this morning, or is that when you reviewed the budget?
Yeah, we worked through some of it then, and then we had to meet with the clerk and recorder, and then we worked through the rest of it.
So effectively, the budgets are being prepared whenever you guys feel the urge, right? It's not being conducted at,
It's being conducted when it's on the agenda.
and it's supposed to be on the agenda and published in the newspaper, and that didn't happen, did it?
It is on the
Yeah,
agenda.
but it's wrong.
It is published in the newspaper. It says
That's enough, okay?
8:30 on September 9th, we had a budget work session. And on Tuesday, today we had the county road department meeting, and at 1 o'clock, we did a budget work session where we finalized just what you were talking about with the county road.
Was it published in the paper?
Wasn't the agenda published? Oh, not in the paper, no, it's in the, I'm sorry, it's on the website and at all the local places.
Which means,
So there was no publication in the paper, and the
No.
public,
No,
for all practical
There wasn't.
purposes, isn't aware of
I
what you're
think we've
doing.
had this discussion.
yes, that's it.
I think so. Well, I think you just simply, well, if you had that meeting yesterday, you should have a summary of it today. There was nobody taking minutes yesterday, so there isn't a possibility of any kind of summary. And again, that should have been available to the public, and it wasn't public. So it's the same thing as the minutes. They should be available to the public in whatever form, so that we know what you did. The way it is now, you say that the minutes aren't going to be available to the public until
Thanks.
after the county commissioners approve it. Well, they should be available in whatever form prior to that. It's the only way that we can know, come in and request it. They're not supposed to be available free of charge. We don't have any way of knowing what happened in the budget until the minutes come out, and that's usually a week or 2 weeks, which is an improvement over the couple of months that you had before. But again, the public isn't aware of what you're doing. So I think you've got an obligation to be a lot more open with the public on your meetings. And as far as I know, there's no such thing as a work session. And if it is a work session, it should be open to the public.
I think there is a work session.
Where?
This came up on our FMAC meetings, and some way said that we have the right to have the work session close to the public.
No, it didn't.
That's not the, well, for all practical purposes, appropriations for FNI, it wasn't appropriated in the budget to begin with. And they came in and they asked for, what, $5,000, and then they got $2,500. Where did that money come out? It didn't come out of the field funds.
No, came out of the county
That's
commissioners.
not a work session there.
Came out of the county commissioner's budget. So it was appropriate.
Yeah.
And every one of these,
So you objecting to FMAC then?
I'm saying that you didn't budget for it properly, yeah. It's supposed to be an advisory committee, from what I understand, and advisory committees don't receive a budget.
Well, that's your opinion.
Come on.
A lot of our advisory committees receive a budget. The airport receives a budget. The cemetery receives a budget. All the fire departments, they all receive a budget.
Every one of them
Requested
has.
a budget.
Yeah, they requested it.
Well, then if they're going to receive a budget, I think they should all have a meeting, an open meeting. It should be published in the paper, and people should be allowed to go there and participate in that meeting also.
They did, and in their open meeting, they said, ask to come to the commission for a budget to do their work. And Commissioner Hinkle brought that to us. We put it on the agenda, and we dealt with it by giving them money out of the county commissioners' budget.
Again, there was no public notice of that, right?
It was on the agenda.
Huh?
It was on the agenda that we were going to talk about.
Well,
Okay, going back
these
to,
amendments, again, have to be published in the paper.
you made your point.
and Open to the public
We're
and by
talking about this year
resolution.
or last year?
Huh?
We're supposed to be talking about this year.
You made your
Okay,
point,
well,
Dick.
it's the same thing, the process doesn't work. You're not following the procedures there. And I guess I'm done talking about that, okay?
Enough,
See, he'll change the
okay?
subject.
Have you read the laws that apply?
They're not gonna follow the laws, okay?
Have
Trying
you
to
read
cut
the
tariffs
laws?
down all the time.
Help you.
Yeah.
Why don't you help the public? That's what you're supposed to be here for.
Okay, I wanna go back to the budget. On August 5th, something came from the Montana Department of Revenue, am I correct?
Huh?
You got a notification August 5th
Yeah, I did.
from the Montana Department of Revenue?
I didn't do
And then when you get that, I understand you give it to the two towns? A copy to the two towns?
That's all right. You guys know. Go ahead.
Well, he was still talking
Yeah.
about she was, so I
All
just
right,
answered.
so why don't you guys finish up and then I'll let you have the question.
My question is, you verify that on August 5th, you get some notice from the state on August 5th, from the Montana Department of Revenue. You, in turn, give it to the two towns.
What the recorder does, yes.
The clerk and recorder does, so then she's not here to really answer that. But, and so then they get it, and that's what they start doing their preliminary budgets, and I would assume that you do it also. And you have your work sessions at that period. Okay, so then it was completed. I don't know about Drummond, but like I said, it was completed, Phillipsburg completed it. So you're saying that they're gonna have to do theirs over again because you got new information?
Well, you're saying that.
No, I'm asking
What
you.
actually happened is at some point, the Department of Revenue gives us our evaluations, and that's where we start. Traditionally, we start at that point. And she starts printing up the empty budget sheets and last year's, and what they've expended. So one of the very first things we start looking at is, in a line item, how much have they spent? 100%, 30%, 25%, see what I'm saying?
The first thing we gotta look at is what the meals were.
Right, the very first thing is how much is gonna come in.
Right, and that's what you got on August 5th.
But then they adjusted it when, Mike?
Is that what you got on August 5th?
They changed
Yeah,
it.
It's August 2nd.
Then we have to wait for the new one.
Okay, so then that has to go to the towns, because they're basing it also on the town, I mean, you
Maybe they
share
said
that
the
information with the
Sarah sends
towns.
it to the towns. Or they send it directly, I'm not sure, I think Sarah does. So what's your question?
Well, if it's incorrect, or you have to do it over again, I would think the towns would have to do it theirs also, if it's based on that.
It's not our purview, but whatever. But they have a whole elected group of officials that handle that.
Well, I don't understand. Maybe next week, when you have the department heads here to answer the questions, because I don't understand if the state sends you, the county, the mill levy, the mills, and then they send it, or she sends it to the towns, there must be a reason. And then if there's a change, I would think that the towns have to be advised of the change also.
Don't know, you're outside of our.
Then why don't they just send it to the towns and not send it to the,
I don't know, maybe they do, I don't know.
okay, so maybe next time when somebody's here, we can clarify
Well,
that.
the towns don't work for us, we're not gonna be here, unless you wanna come to the meeting tomorrow night and ask them. They'll be there, both cities will be there.
The point I'm bringing is I don't understand why they have their completion and other places have their completion, and you claim that you had to hold up the budget, the whole budget, and redo it again because of this change. That's what I don't understand.
That was just one of the factors. The other factor is, getting it done and waiting for evaluations from the clerk and recorder. She has to do calculations every time we make changes. She does another calculation. And it's a back and forth, and finally we get it done.
There was one question I noticed when I looked at that a couple of weeks ago. There was a question that, I don't know who had it, but it was a stickum that was on it. Something about an ambulance up at the ranch. Is an ambulance up there at the ranch?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, did they get them there?
Maybe they didn't get,
They were getting
ambulances.
3 of them? I don't know, is they here yet? Did you know that?
There was a question, is there still an ambulance located at the ranch? Bill just said yes.
Well, our intention, that old ambulance we had on here, remember we gave it to Rockford so they could run a QRU.
So there is an ambulance up at the ranch?
As far as I know.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
I didn't.
Thank you.
I thought you were talking about the new ones.
No, I didn't. I just saw there that on a stickum on there said, is there still an ambulance located at
I
the
don't even
ranch?
know if it's a workable ambulance, to tell you the truth, because they didn't have the money to.
I don't, well, this is one of the questions that somebody had that was on that, the draft of the budget. And I thought maybe you got answered since you did it yesterday. Don't be making noise. I guess we gotta wait until we get it
Okay.
and we can
Let's
answer,
just
okay?
stick to the budget.
Thank you, that's the budget. That was on the budget. Okay, thank you. I asked the question and that was it. You answered it, thank you. I think I'm done. Are you done? Let's go, we'll come back.
Well, just for the record, I make a final statement. I think what you're doing on the budget preparation isn't consistent with the laws concerning budget preparation. It's a matter of talking to the county attorney. I guess maybe have to file a complaint with him. That's what I'll do.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can deal with that.
Now you got an hour you can talk about us. No laughter.